Okay, so I've just purchased some Superior Engineering U-bolt plate high clearance Gen 2s. What these do is they go under your springs and they connect your springs to your diff axle tubes. And so why I'm changing these is the original ones, which is them. The difference is these. So your axle tube sits on that. So then you've got about 40 mil, 45 mil hanging below the diff tube. So great place for all these nuts and bolts to hang up, which happened to me the other night. Slipped onto a rock and the edge of the bolts just dug itself onto or into the rock. It's temporarily stopping forward momentum. So I've never liked the idea of these things hanging so low. So the idea behind the Superior Engineering ones is your diff tube sits, your springs, your sleeve pack sits, your spring pack sits in this channel here, and everything is then there. So the only thing that hangs below the diff is about 10 mil of steel plate. So all your nuts and bolts are recessed inside. So as you can see, it's flat. It then becomes like a skid plate as well. It's got tapered leading edge and back edge. So therefore, you can slide up a rock as opposed to flat edge on the standard ones and sharp edges which quite easily catch on rock. So these things here are definitely going to improve ground clearance under your diff tube. Also, your shock now becomes, so theoretically that's how they're going to sit. So your shock is raised about an inch, about 45, 50 mil, 40 mil. So therefore it'll give you a little bit more droop as well, because your shock will be able to extend that a little bit more. So I'm going to do an install. I've already done one side, so I'm just about to do an install of this side, and stay tuned and I'll do some progress video as we go. Alrighty, the first step in doing this whole job is to raise the car. So you need to raise the car high enough so that you can allow the wheels to hang. So there's got to be no weight on the axle, so you need it to hang. Therefore, when you undo the bolts on your spring hangers, the diff's just going to sit on top of the springs, and it's just going to sit there. So that's inside there, already clean. So what you need to do is raise it up high enough and secure the car properly so that it is high enough so your leaves can droop all the way, and you don't want any space underneath. You don't want the tyres touching. If you can't get it high enough, you can always take the tyres off once you've got it high enough, or before you jack it up. So jack it up a little bit, take your tyres off and jack it up as high as you can, secure it. So in this case I've got a stand on top of a roll rim and some old bricks there on a stand, securing it onto the chassis rails. Give it a good wobble, good shake, make sure that she's not going to go anywhere, and from there you can start the whole dismantling process. So yeah, most importantly is just to make sure that your wheels are off the ground, or if you have to take your wheels off, take your wheels off, and make sure that your springs are full drooped. That way your when you undo the bolts on your spring hangers or on your on your U-bolt plates, the diff's just going to sit there and there's no load on the plates, and they should just fall off. Alright, let's start dismantling. there, so we need to shorten that so it's flush with the top of that nut, and then we need to hit the thread with a center punch to sort of lock the thread in as well, so the nut doesn't come off. So next step is to cut that off. Give it a bit of a clean up, remove any burrs, and hit it with a center punch between the thread and the nut, so locking in the bolt so it doesn't come undone. Okay, so in this next step what we need to do is compress, bring the plate kit up to the leaf pack, so it's a nice snug fit in there. So it's also going to aid in keeping the spring pack together as well. So what we'll do is we'll drop those down, the U-bolts, and what we'll do is we'll just tighten this all up so we can get it, by tightening the bolts up, it'll help us bring the U-bolt plate all the way up, because we need to close that gap in there. So once it's up nice and tight, we'll measure how short we need to cut our U-bolts, and we'll remove the U-bolts, cut them off so they're about 10 mil inside, so therefore there's nothing hanging down. So if they sit about 10 mil inside the bracket, there'll never be any damage to the thread, and it'll be a nice smooth flat surface for it to slide over any ruts, any rocks, plane over any mud, stuff like that. I imagine it's going to collect a bit of mud in there, so when you get back from your trips, if you want to flush it out, get some water in there, it might be a bit difficult, but nothing a tip of a screwdriver or something like that, slowly dig away at it if you ever have to undo the nuts. So I'll just tighten these up now and okay, so now that we've sort of tightened up these bolts, it's a little bit hard because I haven't got a tube spanner long enough to tighten it up all the way tight, but that's hitting up against it flush. So what I'll do is I'll just mark with a permanent marker where I need, like where the absolute bottom is. So now all I've got to do is undo the bolts, take those U-bolts out and measure about 10 mil below that, because there's about 30-40 mil of where that bolt disappears inside there. So I don't know if you can see it like that. Nearly my pinky fits all inside there. So once you cut 10 mil lower than the flush surface, that bolt and nut will be definitely tucked inside there, so nothing will damage it. So I'll take that off now. I'll cut them and chamfer the outside edge of the thread so it slides on nice and smoothly. Okay, so there's our marks where we measured the extreme low end of the U-bolt plate kit. So what we want to do now is bring our nut past, well and truly past our mark, which is there. Same with that one. So slide that past, and what we'll do is we'll measure about 10 mil below that mark, and that's where we want to be doing our cut. A little bit of lube on our thread where we're going to cut, bring that nut all the way up so we don't damage any other threads. 3 more to go. Okay, so now I'm going to place the U-bolts over the axle tube and through the holes. As you can see, nothing protrudes. So they're just so everything's tucked away nice and neat. So now it's just time to put the spring washers on there and the bolts, tighten it all up, and I like to use a little bit of Loctite as well. The click is the torque wrench telling you you've reached your torque, and that's it. So now we'll do that for the rest of the 4. Torque up the other side as well, because I haven't torqued up the other side, and put the shock on. That's it. As you can see now, all that hangs down is probably 10 mil of steel plate, flush. It's all flat, nothing to hang up onto. The shock used to sit down here before, so now it sits up there. This bottom plate used to come down to about here, and it was exposed studs, therefore allowing it to easily hang up, especially on rocks and stuff, where once those studs dig into the rock, they're pretty hard to dislodge. It stops your momentum pretty quickly. So great product from Superior Engineer, that's for sure. Definitely worth the money. Money well spent. Gives you plenty of clearance now between your mounts and the floor or the ground. Your tube gets raised a bit. As you can see, those bolts are a little bit. That washer there is a little bit damaged from where it hung down lower, where it would pick up against rocks and branches and whatever. So now it's tucked up beside the spring, so there's nothing for it to get hung up on. And it's about the same height as the bottom of the pumpkin. So actually it's a bit higher. So the pumpkin still hangs down that little bit lower, but these are higher than the pumpkin now, whereas once upon a time they were actually lower than the pumpkin. So yeah, it's nice and neat. It's got chamfered or tapered edges, both the front and the back, so that way it can, if it hits up against something hard or solid, you can skid itself up and over. Tucks up nicely up against the disc protection plate as well, so you know it's not gonna hit anything. Yeah, all in all, it's a real nice unit. Definitely money well spent, and not too hard a conversion. You know, I've got a few tools, but I'm no mechanic, so I haven't got any specialised tools. Most of your mates will probably lend you a torque wrench if you haven't got one. Someone will have one, or a you know, rattle gun makes life nice and easy, but you don't need that either. You can do it all by hand. Yeah, so probably the hardest thing about this whole thing was getting the car up high enough and having the jack stands and something to place the bricks on, and yeah, you need a real good hydraulic jack to get the car up nice and high, so you can put the stands under it. So when you lower the jack back down, you want those tyres not to be touching the ground, and if they do touch the ground, you'd probably have to take your tyres off, therefore allowing your diff to drip. But all in all, Superior Engineering, great product. Very happy so far. You know, not hard of an install, pretty easy. Yeah, the worst thing about it is lying down on a cold concrete floor. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. You know, we do a little bit of forward driving videos, a little bit of fishing videos, a little bit of anything videos. So give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll keep the good videos coming. Cheers guys, thank you very much.